Okay, this is what it cost to give birth 6 weeks ago at Mount Sinai West. Now, this is what the hospital charged the insurance company, just to be clear. We only paid $400. Thankfully, my wife has really good insurance. We know other people that have shelled out thousands of dollars. We know one couple that had to pay $10,000. Our first kid, born in 2021, my wife needed to be induced, so with all the medication she needed, that bill was like $60,000. I want to show you a small part of the bill and how they got to this number. Okay, this is lanolin nipple cream. It's not even $10 on Amazon. I don't need to go into specifics on why a new breastfeeding mother might need this, but it is a fairly common product. This is how much the hospital charged for lanolin nipple cream. The hospital charged $493. Of all the stuff, the medication my wife needed, this was the lion's share, nipple cream. I don't think it should cost any money to have a kid, but let alone $500 for nipple cream.
Hello everyone, this is Emmanuel Cook. We will be reacting to a new video today, so make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe down below, and let's get into the video.
Do you know how much it costs to have a baby in America? Depending on your insurance, 6, 8, 10, 12, sometimes $15,000. No insurance can be $30,000, $50,000 if you have a C-section. Do you know how much it is in Canada? Free! You walk in the hospital, have the baby, and you walk out of the hospital, and you just get in your car and you go home. Cheaper than a cup of coffee.
I had a baby 5 months ago, and these are all of my hospital bills. If you want to know how much it costs to have a baby, keep watching. I had a planned induction with epidural, vaginal delivery, and everything went completely smooth. Baby had no problem. So this is pretty much the cheapest you could get, at least where I delivered. I made one of these videos earlier without knowing that I was gonna get more hospital bills, because I didn't realize that I still had like 3 left to get. Don't get too excited if you just get your first bill and think you're done. I got 5 different bills, and this is not including any of the OB care prior to the appointment or any of the OB care after. So this is strictly for the 2 days we were in the hospital. I was induced the night before. I came in at like 7 p.m. and then had my baby at 3 p.m. the next day, and then left the hospital at 3 p.m. the day after that. So we were only in the hospital 24 hours with our baby. The first bill, this is the biggest one. This is going to be for my hospital bill, so this is for my care. Room and board, a semi-private 2-bed. That makes it sound so fancy. It was not that fancy. And 2-bed means Landon got like a couch. $2,996.42. Pharmacy, so that's like the drugs that they gave me, which the epidural is separate, mind you. $917.40. Medical, surgical supplies and devices, $145. Laboratory, $198. Laboratory immunology, $78.88. Recovery room, which that room was a lot nicer. We did have like a queen size bed that my husband and I shared, so that was really nice for him to be able to help me. $963.30. The labor room and delivery, so that's not including like staying there, that's just like to use the room for the day that we were there. $10,029.96. The actual delivery was $1,817.61. This first bill of the hospital, everything was covered, so I didn't pay anything. The total would have been $17,147.60. That is crazy. But it was all covered because I hit my deductible on my insurance already. And then later, this is the bill I wasn't expecting. Your anesthesiologist who gives you the epidural sometimes will bill separately from the hospital. $1,980, which I would pay that even if it wasn't covered by insurance. That's worth every penny. But we also paid $0 because I'd hit my deductible. From what I know, your doctor usually bills separate from the hospital. So this is my bill from my OB. $3,500. We only had to pay $167 of the OB. Here's what was not covered by insurance, because adding the baby to my insurance, we had to hit the deductible again for the second person on insurance because we had to add her, obviously. So for baby girl, this was her hospital bill. So she got a separate bill than I did. The nursery, $2,365.81. Pharmacy, $2,343.94. Medical, surgical supplies and devices, $640. Lab, $54. And keep in mind that my daughter had no like problems or anything. So these are all just basic things they do for every baby. Pulmonary function, $155.88. Audiology diagnostics, so that's the little hearing test they do, $163. And vaccine administration was $110. So that totals $5,833.91. Our deductible was $1,800. and our out-of-pocket max was almost $2,000, and so we paid $1,775.64. The other thing, a pediatrician has to come and give you the okay to go home, and so for the pediatrician, they charged us $308. This was a separate bill. And I believe almost all of that was covered. So it would have been almost 25 grand if we didn't have insurance to have a baby with no problems, only staying one night.
If you've ever wondered how much it costs to have a home birth compared to a hospital birth that's typically covered by insurance, then this video is for you. I was expecting when signing up for home birth to be forking out a ton of money out of pocket. To my surprise, after all is said and done, when insurance bills come back, I have paid less than some of my friends and family who had very uncomplicated standard deliveries. I also was able to get a portion of my prenatal appointments and delivery covered by insurance. I have a pretty standard PPO, and I didn't expect any reimbursement going into this process because I didn't want to be disappointed. So to break down rough costs for you, I ended up paying just over $8,000 for my midwife, and this covered all of my prenatal appointments and the delivery and postpartum checkups. Now, this is on the higher end of midwifery costs. Pricing ranges anywhere between $5,000 to $8,000 or $9,000. I was willing to pay more for my midwife because I had been following her for a long time and I really wanted her to deliver my babies. So if you're looking to have a home birth, guarantee you can find a midwife for around $5,000 or $6,000 that has tons of experience and would take really good care of you. I also highly recommend hiring a doula if this is your first child. It is really great to have a birth coach and someone to guide you through early labor, because your midwife and her team really come in at the end when your body is going into transition and pretty much ready to bring the baby earthside. That's not to say that your midwife isn't present. There's a whole theory on being observed in birth that they respect and try to follow, which at first felt opposite to my instinct. Like, I wanted my midwife there the second that labor started. But looking back in retrospect, I'm actually really glad they didn't come until the end, because I would have felt very watched and rushed, and I would have been more concerned about wasting their time than focusing on relaxing and being in the moment. Doula cost, I kind of forgot to touch on that. Doulas can range anywhere from $800 to $1,000 or $3,000 plus. My doula was $2,400, which is on the higher end, but she was also a massage therapist, and she was referred directly from my hypnobirthing class instructor. So with around $6,000 to $8,000 midwifery costs, I was surprisingly able to get around $2,600 reimbursed to me from insurance. This might not happen for everyone, and insurance is such a weird thing where it's such a shot in the dark if you're going to get anything, and truly a miracle if you do. I have spoken to at least 3 women who had had standard hospital births with an epidural, no complications, no NICU stays, and they received bills over $5,000-$6,000 after their deliveries. So if you think that you're going to be delivering in a hospital, everything's covered by insurance, and you're not going to pay $1 out of pocket, I really don't think that's the case. And if cost is something that's stopping you from having a home birth, I hope this video inspires you to rethink it, because if you end up paying the same for both experiences, you may end up disappointed that you didn't go with your gut and have the birth of your dreams. One other cost that may be a factor for you during your prenatal prep would be a birth class. If this is your first home birth or first baby, it is really important to sign up for a hypnobirthing class or a Bradley method class. I'm going to do a separate video touching on the Bradley method versus hypnobirthing and what I learned in trying to figure out which route to take. That class was roughly around $500 for a 5-week in-person class that you and your husband attend with other couples. So there's lots of other options that are online and more affordable, but if it's your first baby or your first natural birth, consider that as an additional cost that you may need to pay for. I hope this is helpful.
Story time. The time that my hospital charged me over $43,000 to give birth. First of all, I gave birth in a traditional hospital in a birthing center, and I had a natural vaginal delivery. I actually received 2 different bills in the mail, and this is what it had to say. So the first bill was for me, and I was charged over $20,000. I had $6,000 for a vaginal delivery, various fees for lab and pharmacy work, and then the room and board was by and large the most expensive cost at $13,500. So the plan paid, my health insurance plan paid over $17,000, which means I was left on the hook for about $2,900. The next bill was for my daughter, and the hospital billed over $22,000 for that. That included lab and pharmacy work such as a bilirubins test, which is a very standard test. Most new moms will know about this, a Coombs test, and a California newborn screening because my daughter was born in California. I also received occupational therapy and lactation consulting, which was also charged at $2,400 and $720. Room and board, by and large, was the most expensive cost for my daughter at $18,600. This is nuts. The plan paid over $19,000. I owed $3,045, making the total out-of-pocket cost that I needed to pay to the hospital of $6,029.70. A couple things you need to know. Our hospital stay was a little bit longer than the traditional. We were there, I think, for 4 or 5 nights, and then we were discharged, making the room and board cost way more expensive. I also negotiated a 30% discount on that medical bill if I paid that in full. Luckily, I have a health savings account and I'm on a high deductible health plan, which means my premiums are a lot lower, but my deductibles are a lot higher, and I have no copay, meaning that my bill was going to be a lot higher, but the health savings account was supposed to take care of that. I find it ridiculous that my birth cost that much money and that room and board was that expensive in order to have a baby in the US. What's been your experience? If you've had a baby, comment and let me know. How much was your birth?
A quick reminder, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe down below, and let's continue the video.
It's always a fun day when you get your medical bill from birthing your child, and I love it when people go through this. So I'm going to go through all the charges and tell you guys how much it costs to have a child in the United States. So first off, labor room and delivery, $6,205.83. Room charge semi, not really sure what that means, $1,691. Laboratory, $1,045.51. Laboratory path, $570.70. Pharmacy, this one gets me because I can tell you when I was there, I had 1 bag of Pitocin, 1 ibuprofen, 1 stool softener, and 1 prenatal vitamin, $232.60. So the total for that section is $9,745.64. So then for COA's services, just some things he had to get done in the hospital. One of them, $464, the other one, $402, for a total of $866. And then this one's my favorite, the OB services, $5,695. So may I remind you, my doctor got into the room when I was 10 centimeters dilated. She broke my water and I pushed for 3 minutes. Baby was out. She left, never saw her again. $5,695. So before insurance, we're looking at just over $15,000 to have a baby. And may I remind you, this was probably the smoothest delivery possible. So I got to the hospital 2:54, delivered 3:17, was out within like 24 hours of having the baby. So $15,000 for the most simple delivery out there. We had no complications. I didn't have an epidural, barely took any drugs. He was totally healthy. $15,000. After insurance, it's only $3,345. But we wonder why people don't have more kids. It's because of this.
The cost of birth. Let's break down my bill from bringing this girl into the world. Let's get into it.
Starting off strong, just to deliver vaginally, $6,838. Semi-private room and board, $4,515. Pharmacy, $824.39. IV therapy, I think this is only for my group B strep antibiotic, $197. Laboratory, $616.76. Just for my room to deliver in, $4,499. Treatment or observation room, $1,260. And other diagnostic services, $568.
That makes my grand total, drumroll please, $19,318.15. That does not cover anything regarding her. I'm sure I'm not the highest. If you have brought a baby into the world, drop in the comments how much your bill was. Let's see who's got the highest.
So here's my thing, right? I just found out some weird hospital costs, right? The first one I found out, when a mother gives birth, the first skin-to-skin contact is charged. They charge you $39.35 to take your baby from your vagina to put him on your chest. To take my baby out of my body and put it on top of my body, you're charging me $40? $40 to hold my child? Are you out your fucking mind?
Someone had sent me a DM last week asking basically like how much home birth costs and like what it costs compared to my first birth or like both my other hospital births. So I thought I would break down kind of like what the different like pricing is and like how it works, how you pay your midwife, all that. So I live in the US. Home birth is rarely covered here by insurance. So you're basically paying out of pocket and then trying to get reimbursed later on. So my first hospital birth basically cost me nothing because I worked for an amazing company who had awesome insurance benefits. And I just got like really lucky there. And then my second birth cost us like $10,000, I think. That was with insurance at the hospital. And that was just the birth. Like that wasn't even my prenatal care. So this time around, my midwife, she charges $6,000. That's like her total fee. It's her and another midwife. She is the only one that, my first midwife is the only one that comes for like prenatal visits. So she came, it was like once a month for the first couple months. And then recently she's becoming every 2 weeks. And now she's coming once a week just to check on the baby. We do like a house visit so she can like make sure we have everything here that she'll need for the delivery. And then for the actual delivery, I'll have both midwives will be here, hopefully. They do have another woman that's due like within a week of me, so hopefully they can both make it to both of our births. So they split the fee. I don't know how that works between them, but so it's $6,000 for like the comprehensive care. The only thing that doesn't include is if you were to go get blood work or like an ultrasound or something on your own, like you're paying for that, you know, like they don't really have anything to do with that. And that's the other thing. It's like a little bit tricky. You have to find like independent places to go get an ultrasound if you want to, or if you wanted to check your blood work for whatever reason, you're going to like an independent lab and then you're paying for that out of pocket. But then most of the time you can then submit that to your insurance for reimbursement. So for us, I was with a different midwife who was part of a birthing center up until 20 weeks. So I did my anatomy scan like at a regular hospital. They submitted that through insurance. And then after that, I decided I wanted to go the home birth route. And so I dropped that provider. And everything after that has just been out of pocket. And then once the delivery is over, my midwife will actually send us like an invoice that like breaks down her prenatal care, the delivery, and then we can try and submit it to our insurance company.
In case you were curious how much it costs to have a baby in America, my son just got his hospital bill. I haven't gotten mine yet, but for just my son to be born, and he was with me the whole time. He never went to the nursery. They did all the tests in our room. It was this much. Yep. So wish me luck for when my bill comes.
I just got in my bill from the hospital for having a child, so let's see how much it costs to have a baby via C-section. Before insurance, $12,348.30. After insurance and adjustments, I owe $4,185.75. That's disgusting. Disgusting. The C-section itself was $6,352.50. My spinal tap was $866.80. Just to have a room for the labor and delivery room itself was $1,000 and $1,003.20, and then our recovery room was $1,221.
Our son is 3 months old, and we just got the bill from the insurance for his delivery and NICU stay. My wife was in the hospital for a total of 6 days, 3 days in labor with a C-section, and then 3 days of recovery, and then my son was in the NICU for 6 days following his birth. And before I tell you guys these numbers, I want you to put your guesses in the comments. Now, they bill the two things separately, her bill and his bill, and they also bill per physician, so it's like a bunch of different bills, but I totaled them all up. And the total for just my wife's hospital stay and the delivery was $66,255.96. My son's bill for 6 days in the NICU was $55,893 for a grand total of just over $122,000. We had insurance, but even our insurance is still billing us like $5,300 something dollars, which they'll probably never see. Anyways, that's how much it costs to have a baby in America.
Okay, so I just had a baby and I got the bill in the mail. So I thought I would tell you guys how much it costs to have a baby in 2022 in America. Now I didn't get an IV or an epidural before the birth. Right after birth, I hemorrhaged, so I had to get an IV, and they had to give me Pitocin and a few other drugs. So just for reference, that's kind of where I was at. We were there for 2 nights, and I had them take the baby both nights in the nursery. But even when they take the baby in the nursery, the baby's still with you like half the night anyway, because they bring it back when it cries or when it needs to feed, whatever. The cost for 2 nights in the nursery, $2,137.66. Now I know the nurses aren't making that money, so why is it that much money? Okay, next is laboratory. I'm not exactly sure what that entails. I should ask for an itemized list, but I'm assuming all of the blood work baby had to have, maybe the hearing test, vision test, all of that stuff, I'm thinking. I'm also Rh negative, and so they had to test my blood to see how much RhoGAM I needed after birth. So I'm assuming it's kind of all of that. Laboratory, $2,728.76. Okay, last thing on the bill says pharmacy. I don't know if this includes babies' vaccines, but literally the only drug I took while I was there was 1 ibuprofen for the post-labor contractions, like while nursing the next day. So let's see what 1 ibuprofen cost. Pharmacy, $360. So that's a grand total of just over $5,200. Luckily we do have insurance, so we won't have to pay that much, but like the prices, the healthcare.
Here is a full breakdown on how much we paid to have our baby at home. I'll also keep a running tally on the side of the screen so you can keep up with the total. Kicking it off strong, we started off with $1,000, which was the deposit that we had to put down to basically reserve my midwife. It was $500 after my initial visit, and then closer, I think, to 20 weeks or so, we paid the other $500. Throughout my pregnancy, I also did various lab work. This included genetic testing, routine blood work, gestational diabetes test, and then I also believe the Group B strep test, and that came to $640. At 20 weeks, I did the anatomy scan ultrasound, which was $700 after insurance. My midwife also strongly encouraged us to get a doula, so we ended up getting a doula, and that was $1,000. My midwife also had an assistant that we had to pay for, that was $500. As we got closer to the birth itself, we purchased a home birth supply kit. So this included things like a peri bottle, it had an umbilical cord clamper thing in it, sterile scissors, and then a couple other random things, and that was $65. Additionally, I was doing a water birth, so we had to rent the birth tub, which was $50. You also have to get a liner to put in the birth tub, which is another $40. And in addition, you have to get a hose to fill the birth tub up that like connects to your shower head, and that is another $40. Throughout my pregnancy, I had 10 midwife appointments, and for each appointment, I had a $40 copay, so that came out to $400 that I paid in copays. Lastly, my midwife billed our insurance company $5,000, and that was for my prenatal care as well as the birth. At the bill back to us, we still had to pay $1,514. Here is the grand total that we paid for our home birth. So yeah, honestly, I was really shocked by this number because I thought it was a lot less. I thought it was more like $2,000 or $3,000 altogether.
Oh, so you want one of these? How much will it cost you? So I gave birth in Knoxville, Tennessee to this little pumpkin, and I got my bill back, so let's break it down. So we stayed in the hospital for 3 days because he had to have blue light therapy. So we got labor room / delivery, $4,880. Room and board, private, parentheses, 1 bed, $3,060. The nursery, $3,000. Operating room services, $2,058. Pharmacy, $783.12. Medical surgical supplies and devices, $391. Laboratory pathology, $341.01. Other diagnostic services, whatever that is, $285. And then laboratory, $3,433. So all of that to a grand total of, how much is it? How much did you cost me? $18,231.13. So I'm thinking that you're gonna need to get a job, Dean. You're only 6 weeks old, but it's looking like you might need to start mowing the neighbors' lawns. I know. But luckily, I am still under my dad's insurance because I'm only 25. So, guess how much I have to pay out of pocket? You're never gonna believe it. Only $350. Yeah. That's right, Dean. So, yeah, some of those things I don't even know what they are. I had a natural delivery. We did have to stay extra days. I've seen some videos where people's bills like $30,000. So, I suppose the old $18,000, it's not too shabby compared to other bills that I've seen. I'm getting kicked off my dad's insurance this year, so I'm terrified to see what it will be like with future kids. But yes, thank you very much. And Dean's gonna have to start saving yesterday.
Hospital bill for someone who has TRICARE insurance for labor and delivery. I had an uncomplicated, easy, smooth birth. I was there for just a little over 24 hours. I'm gonna break this down. So the hospital stay was $2,818. Laboratory was $1,115. Pharmacy, $212. IV therapy, $978. Observation room, postpartum unit, $1,142. Anesthesia, medication, supplies, $687. That's $687, might I add. Labor and delivery, $1,719 for a total of 4 minutes of pushing. Supplies, $245. That brings the total to $5,488.53. Amount that I owe that is due today is 25 doll hairs.
Here's how much my birth cost me with receipts. And to give you a little context, I had a standard hospital birth.
no complications, and I ended up having to be there for 2 days because he was born at night, so we had to spend 2 nights in the hospital. Here's how much all of that cost. What I'm showing you are the EOBs, the explanation of benefits. I don't have the itemized receipt from the hospital yet, but I do have this from my insurance. So here's what my insurance has showed. We have a private room. We have this. We have a lab. We have anesthesia, something part of anesthesia. You'll see more of that later. Operating room, which is interesting because I didn't go into an operating room. So I guess that's just my delivery room. All of this was charged to insurance at $19,138, but insurance always discounts it and they say what they're going to pay. Next up is another bill from the hospital. We have nursery charges, which he stayed in our room the whole time, but just the baby fees, I guess. More medicine and labs for $26.41. I did get an epidural and that cost $24.31 billed to insurance. Again, they reduced that cost. Best epidural I've had of all 3 of my births. 10 out of 10 would recommend. And this is the fee from my OB, $59.26, which they reduced that by $4,000. My OB was there for literally 5 minutes before I gave birth, caught the baby. That was it. As a grand total, insurance was billed over $30,000 for my birth. They reduced some costs and I paid $0 because I already hit my max out of pocket.
I wanted to come on here really quick and share all of my medical expenses from my daughter's birth because I love watching videos like this, and I feel like we had a pretty complicated birth, but I won't really go into a bunch of the details. But basically, I'll go over my stuff first and then my daughter's, and this is all before insurance. So for my stuff, for my OBGYN, the delivery was $1,735, and then just like in total for my doctor's visits and everything from my OBGYN was $3,800, and then my epidural was $1,980, and then I didn't get like the full breakdown of this, but just everything at the hospital for like my stay, the birth, everything for me was $28,872. So the total for all of mine was $36,387. And then for my daughter, her bill at the hospital she was born at, she was there for like 2 to 3 hours, was $6,450. And then her life flight, which I feel like was a little less than a lot just because the hospitals were super close to each other. Her life flight was $25,373. And then she had a bunch of different like neonatologists and things. So there was one that was $2,723, 2 that were $1,180, 1 that was $1,065, and then she had a pediatrician that was $1,869, and then she had a cardiologist look at her in the NICU, that was $890, and then another cardiologist, and that was $1,200, and then she had to be sent home on oxygen. So for her like home stuff, like the oxygen tank, monitors, stuff like that, was $555. And then her NICU stay was $64,084. And she was in the NICU for like exactly a week, like 7 days. So the total of her stuff was $106,828. And then combined with mine, it was a total of $143,215. There were like a lot of miscellaneous bills that were like less than 500 that I didn't really count in here. So I bet it would probably be closer to like 145 to 150. But that was the total before insurance. Obviously after insurance, we paid a lot less. We only paid about 15 grand. Her stuff was 10,000. I'm on a different insurance. Mine was about 5,000 after insurance kicked in. So that's the breakdown. If anyone wants more specifics on like what went into her like NICU stay bills or like my hospital bills, let me know, because those are just the big chunks, but not really like the itemized stuff. So yeah, that's basically the gist.
I appreciate you guys watching the video today. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.